Lord, protect us both. May your study be fruitful. May we exert together. May our egos not get in the way of our discussion. And may the vision of the teaching bless our lives and the lives of those around us. Lord, let there be peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavit Vishabhahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Here it is. Knowledge and error cannot coexist.
That's it.
Yeah, that's correct. On mine, here, this one, is 636. So I'm going to make note of that. Very good. So let's read that part. And the last time, we were discussing about the Shastra and the Astra. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you recall that. And here the Guru, the teacher through words throws an astra, and then the student, the Shishya, becomes a target. Is that correct? And this astra will be what? Tattvamasi, you are that. Is that correct? Now, if there is a qualified student that is able to put aside, he opens his ego, okay, and then receives that, then that should make him see. Because Shabda, words reveal something that is not known, okay, it is a pramana. Words become, handled in a particular way, they become a pramana. And we have that example, just to make sure that we come back to the same point. We have the example of a person that doesn't know someone and is with that person for a long time. And then that person one day asks the friend, he says, I'm looking for this person. And the person was with that person all the time. And the person that he was with is the person he was looking for. Is that right? And then when he asks, do you happen to know this person? Then the guy looks at it and says, yes, I happen to know that person. I said, oh really? Yes. That person is myself. So the veil of ignorance that was covering that person that was looking for someone, and even though was with the person he was looking for, gets resolved. Resolve is eliminated just by words. And there is nothing to do. Just listen. Be quiet, alert, and vigilant. And then the bullet, how does it call? Astra, which is the knowledge of he who knows and is able to handle it in the right context, in the right moment, to a right person that is available, open to that. then those words will actually reveal the self. Now, the person we're seeking is ourselves. In everything that we do, or the things that we don't do, we're trying to find a me that is someone that I can be content with. We said that also. I want to find myself contented. Mm-hmm. And I try to find contentment in things that have no content. I said that too. And we insist on that. When the content we're seeking for is myself, because who I am is the content of everything. But I don't know. So when I'm open to the Shastra, and the teacher handles the words proper, when I'm able to say, yes, surrender, you know what, I'm not going to get it outside. When the mind finally says, okay, intelligence says, I give up. Then the person when the astra, however, one cannot do it to oneself. That's also has said that. Because the means of knowledge that we have are not appropriate and adequate. Because here it's like the boxer that is in the ring, and he's so involved in fighting that he doesn't realize that his guard is down or up, as he shouldn't be. So he's getting beaten up. So he doesn't have the objectivity to be able to see what's going on. So he needs a second. You know the second? You know, there are seconds on the boxing match. There's this guy that's a fighter, and then there's a guy at his corner that doesn't fight, but he's watching the whole thing. He's a guy that cleans his face and everything and takes care of the wounds and everything. So when the bell rings and the guy goes to sit down because the round is over, he says, man, they're beating you. He says, I know. So I'll tell you what, there's one thing you're not doing. He said, keep your guard up because you're leaving the guard down. He needs someone from the outside to be able to straighten out. He didn't realize it. And that's why he was beaten up. So we need an external means, a pramana, which is not ourselves. Because our means of knowledge are shastras. Is that correct? Is that correct? Our means of knowledge are shastras. I'm talking about the content of the previous thing. Our means of knowledge is something we wield. Mm-hmm. No. Is that correct? Our means of knowledge, which is perception, inference, and all those things are not adequate for us to know the self. So we need the astra handled, by somebody shastra, so it can come and hit us like that. That's what we saw last week. I'm doing this for your benefit. Okay? Hopefully, you see, this is the whole idea.
Kusumani, you want it in front of you?
I think okay.
So if we recognize that, if we become aware of that, then we can possibly surrender to the pramana. They can possibly surrender to the pramana. Meaning what? You gotta somehow give up. Intelligently give up. I said, look, I can go around, and I'll be going in circles. And the door will never open because I'm not allowed by myself to do this. It's impossible.
Surrender.
Yeah, so there's a surrender. Give up. Surrender. But it doesn't mean just to swallow what is being said. But to come to realize, wait a minute, I'm going around. I need to have a compass of some sort, something outside that can direct me, can orient me. And because if I don't have a compass, I go around and around in the same place. And life is too precious. So the person intelligent says, I need help. So then, relax. And then the teaching comes. And when the teaching comes, becomes astra and hits my heart, and then I can see. But the problem is that we don't surrender. Why? Because we're sometimes, many times, because of the habit. We are like the duck. Remember the duck? The duck never gets wet because of the plumes, feathers. The water doesn't reach it. So we need to open up to become what they call in the your tradition, Paramahansas. Paramahansa?
Yeah.
Paramahansa means what? It's someone that can actually distinguish between what is true and what is not true. That can suck up the milk and leave the water behind. That's what it means. It means viveka. It means a person that can be in the world and relate to the empirical situation, but at the same time see it as an upadi. Upadi? What do you mean by that?
Upadhi means superimposition.
It's a superimposition. Like the ring is an upadi to gold. So the entire universe and this personality here is an upadi upon the reality. And there's nothing wrong with dealing with the upadi. Yes, as you don't take it as the reality itself. So deal with the limitations and personalities, all this stuff, no problem. But recognize them as an upadi and you are free from the upadi. The upadi depends upon you, but you don't depend on the upadi. And here upadi becomes what? The body, the senses, the mind, all the proclivities and everything else that we were born with, that brought us to this world. So that's the whole idea. And how does that happen? By being open to this astra. The guru handles the shastra. And then that shastra throws an astra. The words of the teacher. That's called a pramana. This is the whole thing about this thing. Is there something else that we saw last time that it should be looked at? I'm making a synopsis. I'm making a synopsis of what we talked about last time. Anyway, if there's nothing else, we'll continue on. Okay, that's what the last verse was in this. It says, when the weapon tatomasi is used against exposed ego, it gets destroyed. It is destroyed. And then he says, thus, you need not do anything except expose yourself to the teaching. This difference between employing perception and inference and exposing yourself to the teaching is what distinguishes this particular means of knowledge from all others. Exposing oneself to the teaching is lending oneself to an entirely different type of pramana operation. It comes from outside and destroys the ego by saying that you are Brahman. For this, no action is performed. You just expose yourself to the pramana with Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. The faith that the pramana will give you self-knowledge. You need to have that faith, the Shraddha. Just like you have Shraddha in your eyes that they can see. Is that correct? So we discussed that also a little bit. Anyway, so this is the previous one. Would you want to read the next part, please?
Knowledge and error cannot coexist. Shraddha is not doing anything and at the same time being totally alive to the pramana, having abundant prejudices about you, the world, and God. In fact, it is Shraddha that grants you this type of exposure. It is the attitude behind the exposure that brings one the knowledge. And against this knowledge, the ego is helpless because it is an error that has been corrected by the knowledge. No error is capable of standing as a coexistent partner to knowledge, because knowledge and error cannot coexist. Nor can the error come back once knowledge has taken place. An object of error cannot return to the same locus where knowledge already is.
All right. Let's make a little pause. Now see if we understand this. Take the first sentence. Shraddha is not doing anything. And at the same time, been totally alive to the pramana. And here's the thing, having abandoned prejudices about you, the world, and God. Are there any prejudices about that? Do we have prejudices about
lots
you,
of them.
about the world? Give me one prejudice about yourself.
I'm limited.
All right. Is that right? Did you feel good enough? If you're good enough? Certain things, yes. Put me in the kitchen, no. You see, I might make a lot of money. I'm good enough for that. But then, I'm not a very good husband. Is that right? In terms of abilities, in terms of talents, we're never good enough. So that's a prejudice we have about ourselves. And now look at this, please. Look, how will these prejudices, let's say, not allow the knowledge, the teaching to work? How would that be, that a prejudice like that will not allow this vision to be had? Think about any prejudice you have about yourself.
Well, I could say I'm a woman, or I'm a man, or
That's right.
I'm Indian, or I'm American.
That's correct.
Any of those things.
Well, no, let's take one. Just take, you're American, okay?
Yeah.
You're a US person, you're an Anglo-Saxon person, and this thing is Indian. And besides that, I am Christian, and I'm this and that, okay? And as such, I have all this history, social, and all that stuff, okay? And then, of course, being here, this is a very wealthy country, and I belong to a wealthy country, and this thing comes from a poor country, all this stuff, okay, like that. Or you have guilt about yourself. Guilt. Things that happened in the past that shouldn't have happened. As a prejudice, then that labels you, isn't it? You have a prejudice against yourself. I'm not good. If people only knew. Like that. So all of this stuff is there. So the teaching comes. So there is two things here, either worthy or worthless or unworthy. Worthy or unworthy. Without realizing it, because of these prejudices, we become what? We take ourselves to be unworthy. You know, unworthy? Many people don't make money because they feel unworthy. They block themselves. They actually, how do you say that? They trip upon themselves. It's a self-boycotting thing. So prejudices about ourselves boycott the possibility for us to find what we're looking for. And the teaching, will not, it will just doesn't come through. So somehow, those prejudices need to be dropped. Now look at a prejudice about me, okay? Mexican, I think it must be Catholics. Okay? Look at this. Brown, okay? Now here's all this prejudice about myself. I look up to the north and say, oh, those guys are great, we're not good enough. Okay, watch this. This is a prejudice about myself.
Oh, yeah.
Not only that, look at this. Besides that, I'm Catholic. Okay, and I'm a sinner. That's a prejudice against myself. How can I be worthy? As a matter of fact, when I used to go to church, there was a prayer. It says, Lord, I'm not worthy for you to enter into my heart. That was part of the prayer.
Seriously? Really?
Yeah.
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy enough. There's a prayer. It's something that you
Yeah,
do.
because that is because because they think they're the sinner.
That's correct. So anyway, these prejudices, you create these blocks, and we boycott ourselves. The teacher is teaching, and then he says this amazing thing about you, you're Brahman. I says, how can I be Brahman if he only knew? If he only knew what I did. If he only knew how I feel. All this stuff. This is personal prejudices about myself. So somehow you have to drop them. So we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So we did what we wasn't supposed to do. So we are not as good as we thought we should have been. My mother, my father, and all that stuff. Idiot, you never make anything. And then he was right, I don't even make anything. So how can I go for Vedanta? If this is the top of the top. Postgraduate stuff, I'm just a little kindergarten kid. Kind of a thing. Those prejudices. I'm just focusing on this. There's another prejudice he's talking about. There's 3 prejudices. What is the other one?
You, world, and God.
The world is another prejudice. Is that right? We have ideas about the world. Look at this. We try to conquer the world, and the world is against me. Okay? Here we are, conquerors of the world. And the world is against me. Nothing comes out right. The world is kind of against me. How can it be possible? How did it happen that now I'm learning Vedanta with this Vedantic teacher and all that? If the world, this must be some kind of a trick. Life is a test the world is putting to all this stuff. This karma, this is my karma. All this, people talk about karma. It's a bad thing. See, I got all this package. People, I don't even know what it is. So it's always hitting me. Bad karma. All this stuff is the world. Okay, things don't happen the way I want to. Because there's something wrong with me, maybe. Or because this guy is against me. The world has it against me. Again, prejudices. I wonder what this guy wants from me. He wants to treat me again. Meaning the guru or the teaching and so on. So we go with this, like this, the world. And then God. God becomes another prejudice. Let me tell you, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. What? You're saying that I am Brahman. And based upon that, then Brahman, okay, is God. And I am God? Crazy. I am just this limited fella. This is blasphemy. I better not tell my priest about this because I'm going to get condemned, to hell. You see what I mean? I cannot accept it. Why? Because God is out there, I'm here. He put me here. I am in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. I am just a little peon in this whole thing. How can you say that Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman? See the idea? Prejudice about God. Unless those things get resolved, then this astra will go away. Astra means this bullet that the teacher is sending. So it says, in fact, it is Shraddha that grants you this type of exposure. Shraddha means relax. Shraddha means trust. As trust. It doesn't matter what was or what is. Just trust. This fella doesn't have anything to gain by telling you that. The tradition has nothing to gain. He doesn't want a crowd. He wants you to, as a doctor, he wants you to be well. So when you go to the doctor and says, cut me up, oh Lord, open my head, take out my heart, put it in a machine, connect it to, I have to just trust that. The guy wants me to be well. So he had to Shraddha. When you go to the operating table, that's complete Shraddha. You know what? This is trust. And you really don't know because you're not going to be there. You might have seen a video and all that stuff, but still, you know, thing is kind of iffy. Right? Because they say, have you made up your will yet? Sign here. What? Well, sign. Sign means open up. Give me you. Hari Om, take me, O Lord. Loot me, O Lord, I'm yours. I'm at your hands. That's Shraddha. It doesn't do anything. It is the Lord that does the whole thing. You just open up, that's all. But those prejudices can be very damaging. Okay, and watch out with any quote-unquote teacher that tells you that there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And why does he say there's something wrong with you? Because he doesn't see you. He sees you body. You know your body? He sees your body. He sees well, first of all, you're a woman. And not only that, you're American. You know, Americans, all this stuff, you know. Or you're Indian, or all this stuff. And look what you did. You're in jail. So what? You should be in jail. So what? Does that mean that the person is not Brahman? Well, if the person doesn't know Brahman, he says you're just a jailfish. That's all you are. You're nothing. Or you're a sinner. Or you're not worthy. And so on and so on and so on. That means the fellow doesn't know. That's all. That is all. Of course, you know, with not knowing that, then we say, well, he's just testing me. You know, and then we surrender to people like that, and they abuse us. You know, it's happened to a lot of people. That people get abused by these pseudo gurus. It happens often, money-wise, wife-wise, and all that. If not, they surrender all their power to these people that are also needy people because they don't know. That's all. It's just not. It's not evil. It's just not knowing. That's all. Not understanding. Okay. Then he says. It's an against the knowledge the ego is helpless. Now, once a person opens up, then the ego is helpless. Look at this, watch this. Look, you're helpless, you cannot but see it. If your eyes are open, if they're focused in this direction, and there is something that is visible, is that you cannot help it but see. The self is very much present, just like this, but not as an object. Aham, the I, this Atma, is self-evident. You're experiencing it all the time, it's there all the time. So the Shastra, what it is just helping you get rid of the mistake to see something that is there. But if you close your eyes and say, prove to me that it's there. Oh my God. I cannot prove to you that it's there. Well, I won't open my eyes until you prove to me that it's there. And you're blocking yourself. So yes, just open your eyes. Just trust a little bit. Come on, open your eyes a little bit. Just open a little bit. Look. Once a person opens the eyes, he's helpless. He cannot help but see it. So once the knowledge is unfolded, if the person is very much available, the ego has no hope, has gone. Ego means a mistake. Helpless completely. Look at those words, they're not just words, they're talking about a process, not a process, but a means by which, you know, the truth of yourself can come to be known. And then he says, no error is capable of standing as a coexistent partner. Because knowledge and error cannot coexist. It's like darkness and light. Impossible. Once light is there, they cannot coexist. Now, but then can you forget it? Well, let's suppose they turn the light off anyway, but now you know what's there. See? So the light is turned off. You know, you get involved. It's okay, but the light's still there. The knowledge is always in the background. Is that correct? Okay, it says then, It says an object error cannot return to the same locus where knowledge already is. The word locus means what? It's not used very much, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of a path of something
The
that.
locality.
Locality, that's correct, the place.
That's what it is.
Locus means a place.
Locus
The
sometimes
same,
comes.
locus, same place.
Sometimes it is the central point.
The center point, okay, well that's a place. A particular, it says, an object of error cannot return to the same locus. It wasn't in a place, and then once already is there, error will not come to that particular locus.
Yes.
And where the locus is your mind. Because the vision is for the mind, please. Is that correct? The self is no problem. You're not doing anything to the self. It is the mind that has now become what? Wise to the realities. Because where was the mistake? In the buddhi, isn't it? What is buddhi? The seed of knowledge. And the knowledge was distorted. Why? Because there was a factor missing. Now the factor is there. And he said, wait a minute, look at this. I am that, which is what? The support of the universe. What? Yes, I am. Before, I was a miserable little jiva that is condemned to death from the moment of birth. This is the vision that we have. A little individual. Individual means separate from everything. That is condemned to death. I was born to die. That is the error, the mistake. And maybe after I die, I'll be happy. If I do this and this and this and this and that. That's a mistake, whole mistake. The moment knowledge takes place, the error goes, and that locus in which this particular understanding was before, which was a misunderstanding about myself, disappears. And where was it? The buddhi. It is for the buddhi, this particular knowledge. Because now you see what is apparent is apparent. And you know that there's no apparent, nothing apparent, unless there's something as a basis which is real. And that reality, there's no borders. And that reality you are. Okay? This is what we're going to. Okay, this will continue on. Is there any questions on this? Is there any comment upon that?
What does the title say? Knowledge and error cannot coexist. That means error itself is basically like a wear.
Basically, like what?
Wear on you.
The knowledge? Knowledge is a veil?
No, the error.
Oh, an error. I said, okay, the knowledge is a what? Is that an error, the knowledge?
Knowledge is not error. The veil is more or less incidental, in a sense, isn't it?
The veil that keeps you from seeing the knowledge? That's
Yeah,
your
to
ego.
see the fact.
Isn't it the ego?
Yeah, right. There's a mistake in judgment. So there is a knowledge. I am, look at that one knowledge, okay? The knowledge is, I am this jiva, this limited jiva. This is my knowledge, okay? Now, and then he says, is it true? Yes, I entered the skin, okay? And this is who I am. That's my reality. Now, that is knowledge. And that is undisputed knowledge, empirically speaking. Empirically means from the standpoint of the world. Now, that knowledge, okay, then is valid in the empirical way, sense. But then the question then is presented, do I really end the skin? And then, so then, through analysis, then you see that even though empirically I am limited, I enter the skin, but under analysis I realize that the nature of myself is actually the nature of everything that exists. Now, this knowledge then corrects that error. Because even though I am empirically limited, look at this, please. I take that as real. That is the error.
Yeah.
That knowledge is erroneous, because not only is it empirically true from one sense, but to take myself wholly as a limited guy, then that knowledge is incorrect. And that understanding needs to be corrected. And then what will happen to empiricality of myself? Oh, it'll continue. Empiricality means, aren't you as limited? Yeah, I'm here but I'm not there. So what are you talking about? There's two things. It's a paradox. It's a paradox, which is fine. And after I became limited, the limitation is only apparent. It's mithya. It seems as though I'm like the sun, rising and setting. It seems, and it is true, it rises and sets, but it doesn't rise and set. Doesn't it? It doesn't rise and set. So in the same way, yes, empirically I am limited. I don't know French, that's for sure. I stutter, that's for sure. I don't know Sanskrit, that's for sure. I can't cook, that's for sure. That's limited. And then, empirically wise, I am dying, meaning what this body is going. That's also true, empirically. But from the standpoint of who I am, that is not true. It seems to be true, but that is not true. Now, then the mistake that was actually being the locus of my life gets completely eliminated. Locus means the center of my life. Completely eliminated. And I'm still, this body's going to drop anyway. So it doesn't matter. So there's knowledge and there's knowledge. There's knowledge of the apparent, but then the problem is taking it for real. That's a problem. Then there is a mistake. There's the error. Is that clear, please?
Mm-hmm.
That's what needs to be corrected. You want to continue, Mother?
You may question this statement using the rope snake example. You may mistake a piece of rope for a snake, an error, but the very next day you may again make the same error. This is possible because the existence of both the rope and the snake depends on a mix of knowledge, your perception. And because the defect in your perception can occur again, the error can also occur again. Whereas the existence of Atma does not depend on any pramana. The self is not first seen by you and then recognized, as is the case with the rope snake. The self always is. Once the ignorance about the nature of the self is removed, there is no question of ignorance coming back. With reference to objects, out of sight can be out of mind. But Atma is never out of sight or out of mind. You may be out of mind, but you can never be out of Atma, the self. This self is not what is meant when people talk about the psychological self, biological self, anatomical self, familial self, or genetic self. These are subject to defects of every kind, genetic, pathological, physiological, and mental. Therefore, such a self is always unacceptable to you. Even anatomically, you cannot accept yourself. Your nose is not of the right shape. Your hair is not of the right color, and so on. But this is not what we are discussing here. The self is different from all of these.
Can you get away from yourself?
No, you're always there.
Yeah, that's right. You can never get away from yourself. Your entire experience as a person is centered on yourself.
Yeah. Otherwise, you want to experience anything.
That's correct. So that self is changeless. It's always present. Now, it's evident to you all the time. Now, but then, when they're talking in terms of the psychology, physiology, and all that stuff, then that can be changing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That can be changing. And sometimes, let's suppose, for example, I'm sick. I have let's say, a stomach problem. So out of sight, out of mind, I can actually and start thinking positive, let's say. Or start thinking that I won the lottery and all that stuff. And this, I don't pay attention to that. The sick guy goes away, as you were. That you can possibly put aside. But yourself, you cannot put aside. It's always present. So we're not talking about the physiological, psychological self. We're talking about the self that is constantly there, that you're always experiencing. That self, you cannot
Get rid of.
get rid of. Impossible, yes.
Like the biological self and psychological self, they are kind of a jivatma of the
Yeah,
self.
that's right. That's the individuality.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
individuality.
it's like fire and smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jivatma,
Mhm.
So, fire is Atma, and
The smoke is
smoke is Jiva.
jiva. So the truth, there will be no smoke if there was no fire.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Smoke by itself is worthless. It's no problem. If it is accompanied by fire, then there's a problem. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. He says, with reference to objects, you can get rid of the mind. The sight, it says, out of sight, out of mind. But Atma is never out of sight or out of mind. You may be out of mind, but you can never be out of Atma, which is the self. And then he's actually clarifying that this self is not those selves he's talking about. So, continue please, finish that paragraph.
Everything is the self, and therefore there is no way of being out of oneself. When the ignorance goes, the ego also goes, in terms of knowing, I am not the ego. The ego that comes after this knowledge has taken place is not the same ego that was there before. It has become an enlightened ego because there is knowledge that there is no real self-existent ego. You refer to it as enlightened Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated while living. This is the person that Krishna refers to as Buddhiman in this verse.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. Look at it and see what is there that is outstanding. So he's talking about two situations with the ego. Is that correct? What are the two situations he's discussing about the ego?
One is when the ego goes. And you say you're not the ego, but it's become an enlightened ego, so the ego has changed. Your knowledge of your ego has become changed because you're now enlightened.
Like ignorant ego and knowledge ego.
That's correct.
Two egos, one is in the form of the ego and not in the form of the
That's
ego.
correct. Now, when, this ignorant ego, in other words,
Avidya.
when knowledge comes, in other words, means when ignorance goes, then what happens to the ego?
Should
That
go.
ego
Should go.
goes. Poof! Poof! Goes. Now here you are, okay? One of you guys, one of us guys here. Now, ignorance went. Now, before ignorance, the ego was very strong. I am this and I am that. That was, there was no, the self was the ego. Is that correct? The self was the ego. Because ego says aham, I am. Ahankar. But then there's an error in judgment. It says I am limited. I am ignorant. Okay? I am worthless. I am unworthy. Or I'm great. Look how powerful I am. If because of me, man, you guys are able. All of this ego thing. Okay? And of course that ego suffers. Why? Because others don't value me. They don't know how good I am. So therefore I suffer. You know? And I'm trying to manipulate things so you guys think how great I am. Kind of thing. It's an ego. That ego is bleeding, okay? And makes others bleed too. Because it starts stepping on others. That's the ego that dies. It goes away. When the knowledge comes, ignorance goes away, and that ego, poof, disappears. Now, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am the nature of the whole thing. That knowledge comes. So now, how are you going to function?
Same as before.
Okay, so whose money is that?
Whose
money is that in the bank? Mine. Whose house is this? Mine.
That ego is still there.
Isn't it? Whose body is this? Mine. I am short, I am tall, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor. I said, wait a minute, so what happened to the guy? I thought the guy thought he was Brahman. I thought the guy discovered the ego. He said, no, wait a minute. That ego is gone. The foolish ego. The confused ego about himself. Now, he comes now, you are Brahman, you are the whole, but then it's my money. I purchase, there's an action, karta. All these things, I talk, I walk, I sit, I sleep, I get sick. You know, all this, my God, this guy, boom, it fell back again. You shouldn't be saying that. You should be saying, this body is sick. This body talks. And this mind thinks. You know, because you've seen some of these guys, you know. Say, hey, wait a minute, no, the fellow still now is using, you know, even though he realizes Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman. Now that ego becomes illumined. What? He can deal and is free to deal. Before he was bound to deal. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Before he was bound to deal. Why was he bound to deal? In what sense was he bound to deal?
Because he was taking the results of whatever he did, whatever his dealing was, they were binding on him.
That's correct. Because if he didn't achieve, then there was something at stake him.
Yes.
He was looking for completeness, contentment in things that had no content. And every time he did anything, then even though he got content for a little while, poof, the content went away. So he was bound, you know, obligated to deal. Is that correct? He was not free to deal, he had to deal. Is that correct? Now, this new guy now, the enlightened ego, is he bound to deal?
Not bound.
No.
Well, let's say, for example, he doesn't make the payments for the house, and they call the note. They're going to take it away. Isn't he bound to go out there and call the bank and say, hey, wait a minute? He's bound to do that, isn't it? But his self does not depend upon that. His financial situation are bound to be lost. You see what I'm talking about? But he is not losing. He's free to deal. He's free to gain, and he's free to lose. He's free to wish and desire, because this is something that, hey, I need to put new windows here. And those windows are not working. Why? Because the sun comes in, you know what, I think I should get some of those windows, but I don't have enough money. I said, well, now the guy's trapped. No, he's not trapped. You know, he's seeing objectively a situation, and he chooses, he desires to have a different kind of window. He goes for the windows, but then to have or not to have the windows is not binding on his own completeness. Complete as it is, whole as it is, he takes care of things the way they are. and there is no suffering. Because right now, let's suppose I'm putting that frame, say, please put the frame, and then you go and come back, and then when I try to put the frame, my God, I break the. And now I'm very concerned not only about having to pay for the thing, but not only that, you're going to think I'm a fool. And so on, all these things, you know. And I don't even sleep right because, you know, I say, okay, I patch it so he won't see it. But then he's going to see it. And all this stuff, we start playing games. So he's not bound by dealing. He's dealing freely. He's wishing, desiring freely. He's free to desire. Before, his desires were binding. Why? Because he's found content in himself. Listen, please. Because he found content about himself. Now he's content with himself and by himself. That's what's called Jivan Mukta. Because the word Jiva means individual. The individuality continues, making noise and taking that space in the world. But free. Free of what? Of the mistake. That's why Swami Shimananda used to call it free of ego and ego-centered desires. Remember that? He says free from ego and ego-centered desires. Meaning, the old ego went away, but the guy is still dealing. This idea of renouncing, because renouncing the world meaning what? Therefore, my wife and kids, they'll do it. I'll give them a pension and I'll go to the mountains and meditate. I'll go to an ashram where there is nothing but peace and so on. Why? Because I already realized. Hey, wait a minute. If you realize, pay the bills, take care of your wife, take care of your children, take care of your husband. There's no such a thing. The other one is just running away from life, which means what? That you're bound by what you do. Meaning what? The ego is not subsided. The old ego is still there. Now the guy can rattle the whole Bhagavad Gita backwards and forth was in Sanskrit. He can actually take all the Upanishads, he has it in memory. He's gone to all these seminars and everything else, all these retreats and everything, and nothing happened. Like the duck doesn't get wet. That's the whole idea. Everything is a self. We need to know that. And the self is not out there. Now watch this. Read that in first person, please. Read that paragraph, the last paragraph, in first person.
I am the self.
Everything is self?
No.
No.
First person.
I.
Everything is me.
Okay, that's a paragraph I'm talking about.
Right.
I am the self.
No, read that. From the beginning. Everything.
Everything is this.
Everything is the self.
No, read in the first person.
Everything is I.
No, everything is myself.
Myself. Myself.
That's first person.
Is this,
Oh, okay.
Everything is
Myself.
myself. Now look at this. That doesn't make sense. From the sample empirical side. We're not even relatives. Besides you're Indian, Mexican. Okay, so am I you myself? Empirically, no. Now, you better know how that is true. Read it, continue reading the first person and see what happens.
Everything is myself, and therefore there is no way of being out of myself. When the ignorance goes and the ego also goes, in terms of knowing I am not the ego that comes after this knowledge has taken place is not the same ego that was there before. It has become an enlightened ego because there is knowledge that there is no real self-existent ego. We refer to it as enlightened Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated while living. This is the person that Krishna refers to as Buddhiman in this verse.
Okay, you get out of the first person. You get out of the first person. Is there a way to do that in the first person, the last two sentences? 3 sentences, try to see if you can do that in first person. Because,
Well, because there is knowledge.
no,
and there
because,
is no.
because, there is knowledge, it's talking about the second person, or third person.
Because I don't know.
No, because I have knowledge.
Yeah.
You see, you see that? Because I have the knowledge.
That there is no real
Yeah.
Self-existent ego.
ego.
Now it says, then I am referred to.
Then I am
I am referred to.
Yeah.
I am referred to as what? As enlightened, which means Jiva Mukta.
Jivan.
Okay, I who am liberated while living. I who am liberated while living. So first person.
Yes.
Okay, then it says,
I am the
This
person
I
that Krishna refers to.
is what? Is a person that Krishna refers to
Buddhiman.
as the Buddhiman. Okay? Is it to do it in first person? You know, it should come as a shock to the mind. Okay, so I can possibly do it. First of all, it's kind of strange to do it in first person. Okay, because you have to actually think it through to be able to see where you apply. But then think about what you're saying. What you're saying is something amazing. And then, look at this. Everything contradicts that. So if it contradicts it, does it mean it's not true? Shastra says it is. Then what would be the next step if you see it as a contradiction? And now you say that Shastra says so. Then what is the next step? Now look, I'm going to just go again. I'm going to do this. I say that in my pocket, I have a lottery ticket that I bought in the name of all of us. And this is $143 million. That's tax-free. Does that mean anything? Mortgage, children go to school, all this stuff. Does it have any meaning? Yes. But meaning full of meaning. Right? Now, of course, you look at your possibilities and say, wait a minute, that Louis is just pulling our leg. He's just pulling our leg. You know that. And then you tell him, you know, there's $143 million worth of it that will split in 5-6 ways. And you're saying it while I repeat what I said. And then what is the next step? What is the next step after that? Now you heard it from me. Now you're telling somebody that happened. Now what's the next step? Is that it?
No. How do we get it?
How is it so? Is that correct? How is it so? Is it true? Now, if you have trust in me, and I show you the ticket, you don't know this is a movie theater ticket. Oh, it was a ticket I picked up in the street. You gotta what? You gotta confirm it.
Yep.
You cannot just swallow it because I said so. I mean, it could mean a big difference in your lives. 143 million divided by 7. It's a whole lot of bucks. No taxes. No strings attached. So, here the teacher is saying something about yourself.
Actually, if I'm a character in the TV serials, on the Indian serial, I will kill the rest 6. There are 7 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take it in the name of 7 people.
Is that right?
I'll go and kill the 6 of them.
Okay, that's the wrong step. The wrong step. That's the next step.
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
was
just
thinking.
thinking about the Syrians and how they show.
You see, if you read the first sentence on this, it says, look, it says, I am everything.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that sound true? Well, it sounds nice.
Wishful thinking.
Okay? Is that just wishful thinking? Is that just my mind should say, well, wait a minute, how is that so? Now, I better know how that is so. If the study of Vedanta is actually revealed it to me, let me see if I know how that is so. And if I don't understand how that is so, even though it sounds amazing, how about what about if it was true? It would be amazing if it was true. But then the Shastra says it, it has no bones to, what do you call that? So why is he saying it? It doesn't sound right. Because I ended the skin and you're not me and I'm not you and all that kind of stuff. Unless I go, oh, we're all one, kind of stuff. How? Ecologically, maybe. Ecologically. But how is it you are? Okay? Everything is you. That should bring a question. How is it so? And then do I understand how that is? And if I understand how it is, it's called jnanam. And then you are what's called a buddhiman. Now, let's suppose that the mind is not caught up with that. Catch up with it, because you can see that it's true. But the mind has these tendencies. Well, forget about the tendencies. This is a fact, and that is the premise from where I wanted to live my life. And let those tendencies eradicate. I had to live with them for a while, but they're all nothing but upadhi. About me. It has nothing to do with me. If I see that, and the quality of my life becomes amazingly different. Not because of a change that happened in me, because in me, no change has taken place. Where has the change taken place?
The mind.
Mind.
In the buddhi. The buddhi is a factor that was not there. And now that is there. Yes.
Did we start sometime way back, when we say now everything is me, I am everything. Did we say everything is because of me?
It also. Yeah.
It's the same, right?
The same.
Everything is me or everything is because of me.
That's correct. All beings have their being in me.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another one like that.
Yeah.
So they're just words, my God. Let those be. That's why. Then I ask you, how is it so? And I'm not trying to put a test to you. You have to ask yourself. So it sounds wonderful to quote that stuff. We're all one.
You sent us a thing on the computer, I think because I am, or I am because I think.
Yeah, that was the card. The first statement is incorrect. The first statement, the card statement is incorrect. He corrected it later. He corrected it later. He said, because I am, I think. That's the truth. But when he says, I am because I think, that was incorrect. That was incorrect. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about because I am, everything else is. That's what I was saying here. Everything is because I am. In other words, I am everything. Now, that needs to be known. And let me tell you, please, this is a word that each individual needs to contemplate upon that. And to be able to, if you listen to Vedanta, Vedanta should be able to unfold that. And if you don't understand, it doesn't mean that it is not true. You question your understanding, and you keep on listening to the teaching to see how that is true. And once that gels upon you, that thing, your entire psyche becomes blessed by that.
Because I am.
Your entire psyche becomes blessed by that. Right now it's blessed by the fact that there is consciousness in it. But then the psyche is right now so distorted because of wrong belief, wrong understanding. The prejudices I have about myself, the prejudices I have about the world, and the prejudices I have about God. And I need to resolve those prejudices, meaning eradicate them about me. I have to eradicate the prejudices I have about God and to see what really God is. And if there's a relationship, what kind of relationship between me and God in some way. And also, what is the world? What to account for the world. And it is not something you do by memory. You cannot memorize it. I hope I'm not memorizing this. Because then it doesn't mean anything. It's all zeros on the left side of the left single point. You better know it. Just as I know you are who you are. Yes, I can perceive you as what you are in terms of the physical elements and who you belong to and all that kind of stuff. That knowledge is clear, isn't it, about the empirical world? Well, the same way this knowledge should be clear in your mind. And the pursuit of that is called spirituality. Seeking what is true. Seeking what is. That is called a pursuit in self-knowledge. I'm dwelling on this thing here because it's of prime importance. It's not just interesting. It's something important. And nobody can actually make you do it. You need to do yourself. Yes?
So how do we unfold this? Is it similar to, like we say, the bull is the rug, right?
Okay. Okay, now, just remember this. And this is something that can be, not practice, but you can analyze this. You have to go from the standpoint that the subject is never the object. And if an object is seen, then the subject is not that. There's a distance between subject and object. So if you're aware, conscious of your body, then there's someone, X, I call it X. So you need to do this neti, not this. So you have to actually negate what you have so far held so dear, that you are that physical body, the deha. And they also have to negate that which you hold so dear, which is your senses, as being you. Why? Because you are aware of your senses. There's a subject which is conscious of the senses. The senses become an object to the subject, and the subject cannot be the senses. It also negates the physiological functions. That doesn't mean that they're not there, please. You just negate that those are you. I am the sick person. No, you're not. Why? Because the disease of the body, of the physiological functions, you're conscious of. There's a subject that is aware of an object, which in this case is a physiology. And the physiology, the self cannot be the physiology. So this is the means by which, the person somehow, by himself or herself. But then, so you come to the mind and the intellect and the thinking and the feelings and all that stuff, and they're all available to you as objects. And you cannot be those either. You are that which is illuminating all that. So then, where are you? Unconsciousness. You come to realize that the common denominator on the whole thing is this conscious being that is conscious of all these things, and those things are there, but this conscious being is not that.
But then it becomes consciousness.
No, you don't become consciousness.
You reach a realization that
You come to see that you are that
realization
consciousness.
that you are consciousness.
Yeah, you come to, I say, wait a minute, I am that consciousness. And this consciousness, is free from all the stuff that the body, the mind, the senses, and the intellect, are going through. So this exercise needs to be done by the person. But then you have the body and the senses. What are they? That also needs to be resolved, because you cannot say, well, I am not the body, I'm not the mind, and all that stuff. So therefore, the body and the mind, forget him. I say, wait a minute, but what are the mind and what are the senses? Are you just one consciousness encased in this particular deha, in this body? How many consciousnesses are there? And this is, what is he, what is she, what is my mother, what is my son? If they do the same thing, they're going to find out that they are consciousness. But how many consciousnesses are there? Consciousness has no attributes. The attributes belong to the objects. But the objects do exist, they're there. So you need to account also for that. This is what the Vedantic teaching continues to do. That even though the self is not the body, the senses and the organs, the senses and the organs and the entire universe is nothing but consciousness. So you need to find a way to do the leap. It's not a leap, it's a leap in understanding that the entire universe of forms and names, if you analyze them, they're nothing but consciousness also. They have existence. And there's awareness, knowledge in there. And you say, well, how can there be knowledge in a bone? How can there be knowledge? Well, there is this intelligence that gives it its shape and its qualities and everything else, and its presence, because they all exist. So not only my consciousness, I am existence also, if I say that everything is myself. So I give it existence also. My existence doesn't end right here. My existence is this body, this mind, and they are all me, but I am not them. So this needs to be learned to do it yourself. This is a work, if you know what I mean. The attempt is called manana.
Awareness.
You have to learn how to see what the teaching is saying, not just hear it and then say, oh, this is interesting, that's why not wonderful. How is it so? And if in the course of the year somehow I didn't pick it up, then is that too late? No. Any moment you can just pick it up. If I wasn't seeking that before, even though I was involved in Vedanta and all that stuff, I cannot come for the past, I can only come for the present. And then, sure, why should I? Why should I? Well, look at this. Not knowing the self, the entire world becomes a big problem, and my existence becomes. Then I'm asserting what I always thought about myself, that I was born to die, and in between I should suffer, and maybe there's something afterwards, and that is not even sure. Yeah. So, if I don't find myself accepting that in principle, then what is the solution to this thing here? See the idea? What is the solution? Not knowing about the rules of the IRS or the federal government's rules about taxes and all that stuff doesn't preclude you that you shouldn't learn about them. Because if you don't learn about them, you're digging a hole for yourself financially. So you might as well start learning about the thing. It behooves you to learn it. So here we are alive, we're in the business of living, and this is the core of living. How many businesses go to pot? Businesses, and not because they didn't know how to make widgets. It's because they didn't take care of the physical situations. And a gentleman or a young lady which makes minimum wage ends up owning the business. because of labor laws, what? Who cares about labor laws? Why do you really care about it? Because you're putting your neck on the noose. We are putting our neck in the noose, not knowing who we are, not understanding this. But the mind is so conditioned and so sometimes, tamasic, that the mind doesn't make the effort for that. It's like me, something God will not happen, but something happens to my wife. I better learn how to cook. And I will, as a matter of fact. Quick, I'll become a cook, and you're going to start teaching me something, And so I come over and ask for help. I said, what should I learn? Why not? Because, you're going to need it maybe one day. And so on. So knowledge is never wasted. As a matter of fact, this knowledge is the crux of the entire life. And we're not talking about a belief system. We're talking about knowing, just like the IRS in the fiscal situation is not a belief system. So I don't believe in that. People say that. I heard them say, I don't believe in that. And then, they got out of trouble, my God. I don't believe in labor law. Oh, come on. No, it's okay. Then they have these employees that get wise. And they say, okay, fine, you just sign your death sentence. Now you owe me the business. It's mine. Isn't it? It can happen because of folly. That's folly. And it's not a belief system. I don't believe in that. I believe in freedom. And why should I pay taxes? All this stuff. Bull. Yeah. I believe in heaven and this and that. So maybe when I die, I'll be okay and so on. It's folly. That's the point. Anyway, that's why I emphasize. And that's why the Shruti is there. And that's why the teachers are there. Is there any questions on this? I know I get excited about this. I hope I'm driving a point properly.
What you said is right, because then the ego will go away. You understand?
And why should it go away? Why does it need to go away?
It doesn't exist.
Is it comfortable to have the ego?
No.
It's a big burden, my God. Burden to others and to yourself. If it's steeped in ignorance. So that's why the ego has become a big problem for us. Look at what's happening like that. I'm going to ask sorry about this. We're in a virtual war. World war. You know that? There is this guy out there that just wants to have support to what he's doing from a whole lot of people to justify the fact that the guy can create weapons of mass destruction. And then you have these teenage boys or girls or whatever they are that are somewhere in a compound in Afghanistan. And these guys are being shot at. They're being shot at and they're being all these things. And they do a couple of things. One is the snipers, and they go and piss on the dead people. You know how stupid that is? And then they let themselves to be photographed. Okay, now that's one. Then these other people right there that mindlessly, completely, they actually throw the holy book of the Quran into a trash can and they set fire to it. Yes. And this guy here is just waiting to have support for his particular intentions. And now the entire Arabs and the whole Muslims are so angry. You see, because of the folly of the ego. Of course we're being shot at. Of course, you know, I don't like these people, they're strange. Look at how they dress, look at their beards and everything else. Look at the funny names. And these boys and girls, you know, they're fully stupid. And they don't have the self-control and the maturity. The ego is there, very strong. And I'm going to just show this. I'm going to put fire to it. I'm going to kill these guys and I'm going to piss on it. I'm going to put it on the internet. Oh my God. Isn't great? For things less than that, the First World War started.
But the worst thing is, after all these things that you said, there is this guy who says, well, if we burn the Quran and my president apologizes for that, my president is a stupid guy.
That's why he's so, I'm telling you.
He says that and people are flagging him.
Yeah.
It's even more stupid.
I'm sorry?
That's even showing even more stupidity.
Yeah, that's right,
But the
because
guy
people
who-
polarize themselves.
What?
Guy is running for president.
Right,
Yeah.
he's even more stupid.
That's right.
People vote for it.
Yeah.
So that
The whole
mentality,
movement behind that.
is completely blinded, and the range or the scope of perception is so here.
Yeah.
It's called ego. That somehow doesn't have the possibility, so I hate him. Let's just say hate him. Why? Because they demonize the enemy all the time. That's how they are able to make and shoot people. But my God, there is more to it than me. There is a whole nation, there's a whole lot of work these people are doing to try to be able to keep together the whole thing. And I mean, there's a little cog into the whole thing. Well, I'm telling you what, this little cog is going to show them. It's so silly. And I'll tell you, the trouble that we are going to get because we're getting, look at how many lieutenant colonel killed and these other persons killed unnecessarily
Because of what they did.
because of what these guys did. And a world war could happen because of that.
If the wrong person gets in, then we're going to be in another war.
Well, no, because of the action.
Of the action, right?
That's independent, even that Obama apologized and all that. So I'm just talking about why get rid of the ego? This is the whole point. Why get rid of the ego? Look at the relationship I have with my wife, my God, with my children. The ego rules.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that these people that one day promise to love each other and to be together, all of a sudden they keep falling and falling more apart because of ego. Some foolishness, all of a sudden, boom, people explode. Look at jobs lost because of the ego. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. So why get rid of the ego? Because the ego is a problem. It means it's infantile behavior. There is no emotional maturity. It's completely immature. That's the whole thing. So somehow we have to grow up. So hopefully, I mean, we cannot change the world. We have to just face the situation of the world. But definitely, you know, the buck stops here in each one of us. And that is what the commitment can be. Not to a teaching, not to this, not to that, to myself. And to the ones I love. Because if the person matures, then the ones you love stop having a problem. You become a part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way our bell is ringing is wang, instead of say ting, and because of twang like that, then we're passing that over to others. And not because we're bad or foolish, it's just because the ego seems to be ruling. That's the whole idea. Let the world be different. It's okay. You cannot do anything about it. But definitely, you know, the opportunity is here for each individual, you know, to hone himself or herself so that a Jiva Mukta can come out of this and illumine ego. That's all. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kachit Dukha Bhakbhavet Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.